Welcome to another Kyle Connor YouTube channel video. In this one, it should be kind of fun because I'm giving you a 6-month ownership update of my 2009 L322 Range Rover that I purchased used from a Mitsubishi dealer in West Palm Beach, Florida. We have a whole video series documenting the purchase experience, the road trip after, and I haven't really told you much about the Range Rover since then, but I'm holding some sheets of paper of service documents as expected when you get into a vehicle like this. So I want to tell you everything that was wrong with my Range Rover after I got it back here to Colorado, what I've done to fix it, what I've been using this vehicle for, and some future plans. So a little bit of a, again, ownership update of the 2009 Range Rover. So I have been a Land Rover fan for my entire life, and I've been lucky enough to have many different Range Rovers over the years. I actually have two right now. We have this one, which is unnamed. This is the 09, of course. It's a L322 generation. I thought about getting an L405, which is the one after this one, but I really thought, okay, this was the sweet spot, and particularly the 2009 model year. I'll walk you through again some rationale behind why I bought this vehicle. But I also have Judy, which is my Range Rover Classic, and I've had Judy for over I don't even know how long now, but that's due for an ownership update at some point. So maybe we'll get both the Range Rovers together and do something fun. Maybe we'll take them out on a trail or something like that, just to get them out of the pavement. And so I bought this one, which is particularly dirty at the moment. I apologize. I probably should have run it through the car wash before filming, but such is life. And, it's not perfect. This is a driver example. Come around for a tour. I'll show you around the vehicle. You can see, again, 2009, pretty standard Range Rover. They had an HSE, which this one is for the US market. Then they had an HSE Luxury, I think it was, which gave just some adaptive headlights, some other little things. And then there was the supercharged version with the 4.2 liter Jag V8. Then, of course, in 2010, they came out with the third refresh of the L322. The 03 to 05s were sort of the BMW era. 06 to 09 was Jag era. And so really the 08s and 09s in particular are known to be the most reliable generation of this Range Rover, which it's a Range Rover. It's not very reliable anyway. But you don't buy these things to be bulletproof. At least these are known and they're easily fixable. And I have to say I've been pretty impressed with this one so far. But of course it's not perfect. And then the 2010 to 2013 had the 5-liter supercharged V8 or the 5-liter naturally aspirated engines, and were just really amazing machines. And I've owned one of those supercharged in period when they were correct. So, okay. I bought this one because I really wanted to have an L322. It's actually one of my favorite vehicles of all time. I think they look great. That's just the right size of Range Rover, especially if you come down over here on the side, you'll be able just to see, okay, it's the traditional Range Rover shape. It's not super boxy. It's not super streamlined like some of the newer ones. And to me, this is what a Range Rover should be. They have the best driving position. They're so quiet and comfortable on the inside. And there's just something intangibly nice about this generation Range Rover that makes it truly, I think, one of the best cars. And what I really wanted, the reason I got this one, I've always had an L322 since I got rid of my last one. Like, I really want one of these back. It's just a nice vehicle to run and do things with. If you have to go to Home Depot, you got to bring a dog to daycare, or you want to go up in the mountains really quick and it's muddy and snowy. This has terrain response and all of that crazy cool stuff. It's just, something that's great to have fun with. And what's nice is these have gotten really cheap recently. Of course, many of them have ended up sort of junked because I think people are afraid of the repair costs. But once you really get to know this generation Range Rover, it's really not that bad in my impression. So I was on Bring a Trailer looking at a whole bunch of like primo examples that were coming through, and these are becoming quite popular on Bring a Trailer these days. And I was like, well, they're going for 25, 28,000. Maybe you'd find a really high mileage one and they're, even into the $30,000 range. But I just went online and I looked up, okay, what's the market like outside of the bubble of Bring a Trailer or Cars and Bids or something like this? And I found this one. It was an ad for sale on cars.com at Palm Beach, Mitsubishi. And it had no photos, but it was listed at under 60,000 miles, 50 something thousand miles. And I think it was 12,900 or 13,000. I can't remember exactly what I paid for it, but I paid around $13,000 for this one, under $15,000 with tax out the door. I saw the ad. I was like, okay, that's interesting. I called them up. We met, I'm trying to remember the guy's name. We have a whole great video with him when I test drove this there. Basically, found the car. They sent me photos. I went, checked it out. And yeah, no, it was so funny. You get in the car and it's got suspension fault and all of these little issues and warnings and dings and things. And I'm like, oh boy, this could be exciting, because to be honest, that wasn't 100% disclosed to me ahead of time before getting there, that, you know, the air suspension was jacked all the way up and it couldn't lower itself. But that's actually better than it being slammed and not being able to build pressure. And what I did was a little bit brave, was I flew into Palm Beach Airport with no return flight, and I had to go to Austin, Texas for South by Southwest, and that's all documented. And then I went from Austin back here to Colorado. So a huge road trip initially, literally no service, no inspection, no pre-purchase inspection or anything. Just jumped in, bought a well under market value Range Rover, and decided to go on a huge road trip. And thankfully, it didn't leave me stranded. It was wonderful. And I think the vehicle had just sat around a lot, because it seemed like the more that I drove it, the more that I used it, the better it got throughout that road trip. But I knew, of course, once I got it back here to Colorado, I wanted to basically have an expert run through the entire vehicle, fix everything, not necessarily bring it back to 100% concourse quality, if you will, but just to get it, you know, working enough, or, you know, that I can use it as a reliable piece of transportation and as a tool. It's got a little bit of rust on it in some places I wasn't expecting. Underneath, it's perfect, but typical L322 places. And again, I'll link the video where I took you on the initial tour. Under here on the tailgate, you can see just some rust coming through, nothing unusual. My impression was that the previous owner lived by the ocean in Florida with this rigs, because yeah, there's just like lots of surface rust in little places. And talking to the mechanic who did the work on it, he was like, yeah, it's really clean. It's nice. Nothing's, you know, the rust isn't terrible, but everything's just kind of coated in salt and grime. And so we did a deep wash on it underneath. It doesn't look like it now, but we really blew all that crap off. You'll also notice it's not registered. That is just because I've been traveling legitimately straight for 6 months. I have not had time to go to DMV. Now, the dealership was supposed to arrange everything to send the plates to me, but there was some issue with Colorado and their system, and they basically just refunded me. So I have a check in the paperwork over here I haven't even deposited for all of my registration and tax cost on this. I'm then going to go to DMV hopefully this week, by the time this video goes up, and get my Colorado plate put on the Range Rover. It's already passed the emissions test in Colorado. I've had the chance to take it there, and it's had VIN verification and things like that. As part of this whole process of getting everything in check was I took it to a shop here in town, and I wanted to have them basically run through everything and tell me what was wrong. And like I said, I bought the vehicle under market value, expecting to have to put some money into it, knowing it's, you know, at 50, 60,000 miles, it's 10 years old, and it needs a little bit of love. And that's true. That's what it needed. So it has, I am holding a receipt to a $5,000 service bill for the Range Rover. And it's not totally fixed yet at the moment, because just the other day I pulled it around just to do a quick run around town, and the check engine light came on. So I haven't scanned it. I don't know what's going on with it, but it drives fine. But the check engine light's on, and you just never know. It might be something simple that we can clear and move on. But I just want to walk you through some of the things that I had to do, you know, to get this back up into running order. And some of it was like really small stuff. For example, the keys that came with it were really falling apart. So I actually ordered new key shells, and I transferred the internals into this sort of aftermarket but still same shape Land Rover key, and that has been working great. And now I don't have a key that's falling apart. Same thing with the wiper blade, same thing actually with the gas cap. In order to pass the emissions test, my fueling cap, I had to put a new one of these on. So this is a brand new one from one of the Land Rover parts. I know it's like 20 bucks at the most. So that's brand new. Also, the upper brake light was cracked, and so I just replaced that myself. Just took me 20 minutes. So that was pretty easy. Also noticing, I don't believe I purchased it this way, but it's happened at some point over the last few months. This taillight has also, housing has cracked. So I have to order a new right rear taillight. And I'm not sure how that happened or if I missed it. I'm not totally sure. Since I got this thing back to Colorado, I really haven't driven it. Again, it hasn't been registered, so I haven't really done much with it. It actually sat inside of the storage area for quite a while. And what's interesting is occasionally when I'll park it, the air suspension will deflate and fall. And then occasionally when I park it, it just stays at perfect ride height. So it must have something to do with some adjustment valve that changes when you shut off the vehicle. For example, I was just in Portugal filming the new i5 and the new BMW i7, and this had sat, even when we were in Germany before that, I didn't drive it in between, so it sat for a good 7 weeks or something like that. And yeah, it was at perfect ride height for 7 weeks. Didn't drop a bit. So at least I have confidence that the air struts and the whole air suspension system has good integrity based off the initial look, because this is always the biggest worry with L322. Everything is nice. The reason why when I bought it that it was jacked up in high suspension and it wouldn't lower and it had a speed limit was because there's a silencer on the exhaust valve of the air compressor. Basically, it builds up pressure and then it wants to dump a little bit out. It always goes over, measures your pressure, and then dumps some air out. And it's quite loud when it dumps some air out. So from the factory, there's a silencer in there that's like a really fine filter. And over time, as junk just gets passed through the system, it gets clogged and it doesn't let air purge. So it could build pressure just fine. It just couldn't dump pressure. And I basically, when I was in Austin, removed that dump valve and everything has been back to normal, completely fine. System operates perfectly. Terrain response now goes into low range, high range. I can change the modes. I can raise the vehicle up. I can lower it all the way down to access height, and everything is great. I will say I haven't driven it, again, that far or that long, but I'm just getting the sense a little bit that the air compressor is running a bit too much for the suspension. Again, I don't think there's a leak because it holds pressure really well. I just don't remember them running the compressor constantly, but it could just be because it sits for a long period of time and it's got to refill the whole tank. So maybe I just need to take it on a trip and blow some of that stuff out. Just to show you inside how well this is holding up, it is gorgeous on the inside. There's really only one issue with the interior of this vehicle, and that would be the trim pieces around here have these odd cracks in them. We can't seem to find where to order them. It doesn't bother me too much, but this cracking is only on this area of the dash. Nowhere else has it, but the rest of it looks brand new. The back seats look like they've never been sat in. The leather dash has been holding up perfectly, unlike actually our e-tron, which is starting to delaminate. So I have to say the interior is amazing. The driving experience is amazing. This thing sits at 80, 90, 100 miles an hour all day without issue, no problems in the world. So been really impressed with how well it holds up. The door thunks are great. I just love this thing. So let me tell you about what they've fixed on this Range Rover, because I'm holding, again, a $5,000 service bill, which still puts me under what a bring-a-trailer Range Rover would get me, I would say, in similar condition with even maybe less miles here. So I still feel like I made out okay. And let's see what I have here. I have a new buyer's check, which was 2 hours of labor. So that was them to go front to back on the vehicle, look at everything, $316. One of the bigger things was it needed a driver's front wheel bearing up here. It was just starting to make a little bit of noise. Probably could have gotten away with driving it for a bit longer, but for $1,300, I had them go in and change the front wheel bearing. Quite expensive, and so there you go. I also did entirely new spark plugs in the engine, which is $432. And I had them bleed the brake fluid flush and everything, not just a top up, but of course a full flush. And it was a $261 job. The thing is though, with the brake fluid, I got the vehicle back from them and they said, yeah, the brake fluid's nasty, like it hadn't been drained maybe ever. The pedal was really squishy, so I actually brought it back to the shop that did the work, and I was like, hey, like I think you left some air in the system, and they rebled the system, but the pedal's still really squishy. So I'm not sure if there's a special process. I mean, these guys are Land Rover certified techs, but throughout that 2 brake fluid flushes, the brake pedal is really long travel compared to before I brought it in, which is disappointing because I like a really firm brake pedal. So I need to maybe go to a different shop and see if they can bleed the system better. Maybe I'll even bring it to Land Rover. I don't know for that one. We did a full power steering fluid flush, $180. We did a cabin air filter and an entire HVAC system ozone treatment. Not something you want to do too often because it does deteriorate the plastics, but they found a little bit of mold in the system and the filters were kind of nasty. So they blew out the entire HVAC system with an ozone treatment. So I really was pleased with that. Of course, we did a full engine oil change and oil service. Engine oil, it wasn't even just a change, they flushed the oil, which is cool. So actually 2 changes as part of that service. We did the front suspension lower control arms on each side, has new lower control arms and bushings, which is great. We replaced the engine air filter. And we're down to the last item, which was, actually that was it. Yep, engine air filter, last one. Control arms, holy smokes, $1,800 for 2 control arms on this particular one. So the final bill is $4,953.39. As part of that, of course, I got an alignment as well. And so you can take a look at the pre and post alignment statistics. We're just slightly off in some areas on the pre. Now everything's in the green, looking nice and perfect. So basically what we have here now is a pretty much dialed Range Rover. The only major thing I really want to get fixed and looked at would be the brake pedal. I don't know why the shop couldn't really dial that in perfectly. So that's one thing that's kind of annoying. And then just little trim pieces here and there. Of course, it needs a full wash and detail, but paint's already starting to come off the roof a little bit. So I was thinking maybe I would do one of those full roof racks up there just to cover that. Could look really nice. We need to get that new tail light. The bumper needs to be resprayed, but again, it's a cheap Range Rover that I've just really enjoyed, and I think it's worth probably even more than what I paid for it if it's marketed correctly and we really dial this thing in. And yeah, I've just truly been enjoying it. So what's to come? Well, the first thing that has to change are these wheels. These are the base HSE wheels from 2009, and I really hate them. I don't know any other way to say it. I thought I would grow to like them, but I just really hate these wheels. I've actually already ordered a set of 20-inch factory OE wheels that are sitting in the storage warehouse, and they arrived slightly damaged, so I just need to have them reconditioned, and then we'll put on some chunky Nokian tires of some kind, I think will be the plan. Nothing super off-roady, maybe their Outpost APT, which is what I run on my other Range Rover, and we'll see how that goes. Just not loving this wheel at all. The ones that I got are actually from a couple years earlier before this truck, from the BMW era, but they look amazing. It's my favorite factory L322 wheel. It's the 7-spoke 20-inch. That'll look great. So that'll go on. Then I think what we need to do is we need to put the whole roof basket on the top, or a rooftop tent or something up there. Just so, you know, if friends want to come join us on the trail, we can at least put all the stuff up there. We can put a small sleeping tent up there, and this can be the extra vehicle to come along if we take the Rivian camping for a weekend adventure in Moab or something like that, just to really get it and use it. And I think it would look kind of cool as well. I would love to do a metal bumper with a winch, but no one makes anything like that. So there is one L322 I found online that has a metal bumper and a winch built in, but really not much out there. There were some of the G4 Land Rovers, which is sort of an off-road expedition that Land Rover used to put on, a challenge, if you will. And they had a couple orange ones that were kitted out with winches. I don't know what system they actually used, but that's what I would like to do with this. It's also the same wheels that those G4 vehicles had will be going on to this one. And then really it's just, I got to run to DMV in a couple days, get the plate on this thing, give it a wash, and then just drive it. There's not much more that it needs. It's got full engine oil service, full coolant, everything's in spec, been fully looked over by the mechanic. He said he was really impressed with how well it held up, which I thought was interesting. And then, yeah, the infotainment system is still not working, so I still don't have a sound system in there. That was a known thing, and there's actually a quick fix for it. that didn't work on this, which means the amplifier is dead. Do I really need a sound system in the Range Rover though? I don't think so. Maybe one day we'll get around to just getting a used amplifier, factory Harman Kardon one, and just replacing it. It's a very simple fix. So yeah, maybe I'll scour eBay if I remember one day and see if we can swap it into this. And that should solve the problem. That's a known common issue. Again, it's not perfect. As I always say with a Range Rover, if you think it's perfect, you're missing something. But really, I would say the last item that really bothers me about it, come join me over here, is the steering wheel. The steering wheel is not broken in any way. It's just worn oddly, I would say. And so I don't know if we should maybe recover it in leather or find a new one. It's well over $1,000 for a new steering wheel. Sort of new old stock, if you will. There's just a handful left. I'm not sure if it's worth swapping it out for something like this to spend, almost, let's say, 7% of the total vehicle value just on a steering wheel, especially seeing as I'm not driving it all that often. My plan was never to drive this all that often. I just wanted to have it and enjoy it and use it occasionally. And I think I'll probably just leave it like this for the time being. Maybe we'll give it a real good scrub when it goes to Colton's. But yeah, so now it's just like, okay, it's dialed. I need to figure out what's going on with the check engine light. I'm guessing it's something pretty minor. We will just get the brake fluid flushed, new wheels on it, get a roof rack for it, and then have some fun. So that's my 6-month ownership update. There's not much to tell you. You can join me, come for a drive. I'll drive you around the block in it so you can see how it drives. And yeah, it's been pretty great. Air conditioning works okay, although I was taking Walter to his little daycare class thing with a whole bunch of puppies, and we had the AC on max and it wasn't working great, but today it's working great. So that's a very Range Rover situation. It says check spare tire pressure. Okay, so maybe I should do that. And the check engine light's on, but all the other warnings have gone away for the most part. You might be able to hear just a low rumbling noise. That's the air suspension compressor running away in the background, but we've come off of high idle. So I'll just take you on a quick loop in the Range Rover. And there is just something perfect about driving this generation, this L322. You get the adjustable armrests. You get this amazing viewpoint out the front. It feels so high quality, even to modern vehicle standards. This is quite an old car, but it drives how many modern SUVs drive today, and sometimes even better in my impression. You have the BMW switchgear up here, all left over from the early days of this vehicle before the, before Jag bought him out. They went to that Ford situation. So off we go for a little cruise in the Range Rover, something gentle. The shifts are perfect and buttery smooth. The engine is strong. It loves to rev. It's happy to work. Honestly, being here at elevation, it's kind of slow, certainly a lot slower than it was at sea level. Of course, we live at a mile above sea level, so the lack of air density really makes a big difference with how this thing gets on down the road. And so I think if I were to do it again, I would actually get the supercharged version. And I didn't want to get the supercharged version mostly because of reliability. I wanted a simple, naturally aspirated V8 2009, the last of this pre-facelift generation, if you will. And yeah, I think ultimately we made the right decision, but I was planning on doing some towing with this coming up. And I think towing up here on some of the steep grades, it'll do it, but it's going to be working really hard for sure. So yeah, just a great view out the front, great commanding position, great ride comfort, great noise isolation. Truly, there are still no rattles in this vehicle, which is just amazing. We are at 59,245 miles at the moment. I can't remember with what I bought it with, but I think maybe 53,000 miles, something like that. I have to go back to that video and check, but dash is looking great. Other than this, Alyssa, what's your impression of the Range Rover?
Another Range Rover. I mean, the interior quality, especially in the back seats, are really, really great. Obviously, just those cracks are the only thing the issue, and then also the music stereo
right issue. So this system doesn't work, but if I push and hold for like 5 seconds here on the top, and then I push nav over here. I can then get into the like menu here, and what I can do is I can go to screen settings and I can just turn it off, which is kind of how I drive it, especially at nighttime, because it doesn't dim that dark. So this is pretty much that's the process when I drive it at night. And you can just, I don't know, hear maybe the suspension compressor just running a bunch.
I hear a lot of stuff back here.
Yeah, that's the suspension compressor going,
yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I don't know why it's going so aggressively, because I don't remember that behavior, and it could just be that it's parked for a long time and it loses pressure. But here we are cruising along at 40-50 miles an hour, not a care in the world, so easy. It's once we get a license plate on this thing and get the wheels and tires sorted, I'm gonna take it on some drives and use it to do stuff around town, and I'll probably even use it to tow, because my real tow vehicle, the Rivian, is great for around town towing, but as soon as I have to go somewhere far and I'm on a tight schedule, it's impossible to tow with an electric truck. You need a lot of time and a lot of patience. It's doable, but it's a pain in the ass. With this, I can just hook up the trailer, no problem, throw a car on the back and go forever. So I actually didn't even know that this thing had the trailer hitch on it until after I got it back from Colorado. And I'm so glad that I have the towing pack, because I definitely will be taking advantage of that. So there you go. That's the update on the 2009 Range Rover full-size. Just something really nice to have in the garage. I feel like I'm never going to lose a penny on it. I think L322s are starting to come up in value for nice ones, even though, yeah, it's a little dusty at the moment. This is a really nice example in my impression. We're going to keep on top of maintenance, keep on top of service, and I've just really enjoyed my ownership experience so far, but there's a lot more to do. I just have to have the time to go get a license plate on it, get it to DMV, take it for a cruise. It's fully insured, of course, but I just need to get it so the plate's on. There's the suspension compressor again. Not sure why, but thanks for watching another Kyle Connor YouTube channel video. This is where you get updates on all of our cars. You can see the Model S just in front of me. I have an update coming on that for you very soon, because we've just done a few things to that vehicle, and so much more to talk to you about. So thanks for watching. See you in another one soon. Bye-bye.